Today's topic is topic 9.7 and 10.4. Objective. I have added fractions with like denominators. Today I will learn how to add fractions with unlike denominators and mixed numbers. Pause the video now to write down your objective. Where in everyday life have you seen two or more fractions with unlike denominators and mixed numbers? You may encounter fractions with unlike denominators and mixed numbers in measuring distances, recording heights at the doctor's office, statistics for sports teams, or in a cookbook. Over the weekend, Eleni ate 1/4 box of cereal and Freddie ate 3/8 of the same box. What portion of the box of cereal did they eat in all? You may use fraction strips or drawings to help solve the problem. Record your work and your answer in your math spiral. Pause the video now. Find a least common denominator by listing out the multiples. Wow, that didn't take long. 4 and 8 both have 8 in common. So I'm going to leave 3/8 as 3/8, and I would change 1/4 to 2/8. So I would take my denominator, I'd put 1/4 down, I'd put 8 across from it and say, how many 4s go into 8? 2. So 2 is my denominator, so 2 is my numerator. So I have 2/8 and 3/8. So all together they had 5/8 of the box of cereal. If you don't have this in your math spiral, please write it down now. Okay, over the weekend, Eleni ate 1/4 box of cereal and Freddie ate 2/3 of the same box. What portion of the box of cereal did they eat in all? You may use fraction strips or drawings to help you solve the problem. Record your work and your answer in your math spiral. Find a least common denominator by listing out the multiples. Pause the video now. Okay, when I listed my multiples of 4 and 3 out, I saw that for 4 it was 12, and as soon as I wrote for 3 and found it was 12, I stopped right there. Okay, you know it can't be 0 because every number has 0 in it. So the least common multiple is 12. Next, I put it as my denominator on the other side, just putting the 12 across from the denominator of 1/4, which is 4. 4 times what equaled 12? 3. 3 is my number that I multiplied my denominator by, so I multiply my numerator by the same number. Then I put 2/3 here. I put 12 over here. 3 times what gives me 12? I decided it was 4. 4 is my denominator, so 4 is my number that I multiplied my denominator by, so I multiplied my numerator by the same number. Okay, and all together, 3 plus 8 is 11, and I leave the 12 because I have like fractions, so 11/12 is how much they ate all together. If you didn't have this all down, please write it now. Bob wanted 5/6 of a pizza, and Jack wanted 3/8 of a pizza. How much pizza did the boys eat? You may use fraction strips or drawings to help solve the problem. Remember, if there's an improper fraction, make it a mixed number. Record your work and your answer in your math spiral. Find a least common denominator by listing out multiples. Pause the video now to do this. Did you write out your multiples? Here they are. For 6 and 8, of course they have 0 in common, and the next one they have in common is 24, so that's my least common denominator. Next, I put it across from the denominator. So 5/6, and the 6 is across from 24. So 6 times what gives me 24? The answer was 4. I multiply my denominator by 4, so I multiply my numerator by 4. Then I write 3/8, and across from this denominator I put 24. 8 times what equaled 24? Well, the answer is 3, so I multiply my denominator by 3, so I multiply my numerator by 3. Now, I add 20 and 9 together, and I get 29. And I put the same number as my denominator, so it's 24. So 29/24. Uh-oh, that's an improper fraction. So if you looked in the directions, it said if you have an improper fraction, make it a mixed number. So I take my denominator, turn it into my divisor. Take my numerator, make it my dividend. So 24 goes into 29 one time. That's my whole number, so I make it big. 1 times 24 is 24. I subtract, I get 5. 5 now is my numerator. So my remainder becomes my numerator, and my divisor turns back into my denominator. And that's how it's done. Write this down if you don't have it in your math spiral yet. Pause the video if you need to. Now, Bob wanted 1/2 of a pizza and Jack wanted 3/10 of a pizza. How much pizza did the boys eat? You may use fraction strips or drawings to help solve the problem. Record your work and your answer in your math spiral. Reduce if possible. Find a least common denominator by listing out the multiples. Pause the video now. So I list out my multiples, and I can see that 10 is the least common multiple. So now that's going to be my least common denominator, so I won't have to divide it down. If I use 20, I would have to divide it by 2. So it's easier if I don't have to divide it down. Next, I write my problem down. I have 1/2, and I put it across from 10, the 2 anyway. 2 times what gives me 10? The answer is 5. So 5 is the number I multiply my denominator by, and numerator has to be the same, so times 5 on that one. Okay, then I already had 3/10, so I'm going to leave that alone. So now I have 5/10 plus 3/10. That gives me 8/10 because I just add the numerator and I leave the denominator. Okay, now I have to divide it down. I divide it by 2 since they're both even, and I can't think of anything else that would go into it. And I always try the numerator first, but 8 doesn't go into 10 evenly. I know that. So my answer is 4/5. Can it go any lower? Nope, I don't know any number that goes into 4 and 5 evenly. So that's my answer, 4/5. So 4/5 of a pizza is how much they ate. Pause the video now and write down anything you don't have. Perhaps you forgot to reduce it all the way down. Joanne used 1½ cups of whole wheat flour and 1 2/3 cup buckwheat flour in a recipe. How much flour did she use in all? How would you add two fractions with unlike denominators such as 1/2 and 2/3? Solve in any way you choose and show all work in your math spiral. Hint, find like denominators for the fractions. Pause the video now to do so. Wow, that was pretty simple to find common denominators by writing out my common multiples. Okay, next, or writing out my multiples and finding the common. Okay, my least common denominator is 6. So I put 6 down here. I just leave the whole number alone right now. I'm going to work with the fraction part. So 1/2 is across from the 6. 2 times what gives me 6? Well, that's 3. So since I multiplied 3 by the denominator, I multiplied 3 by the numerator. Next, I put 2/3 across from 6. 3 times what gives me 6? The answer is 2. So I multiplied my denominator by 2, and of course my numerator by the same number. Okay, so far I have 1 and 3/6 and 1 and 4/6. Oops, now I have 7/6. Okay, because I added the numerators. So now I have to take this improper fraction and turn it into a mixed number. I take my denominator, make it my divisor. I take my numerator, make it my dividend. Now, 6 goes into 7 one whole time, so I put my whole number there. 1 times 6 is 6. I subtract, I get 1 as a remainder. My remainder becomes my numerator. So it goes right here, and my divisor turns back into my denominator. Okay, so I have 1 and 1/6 for this right here. So I leave 1/6, and I take the 1 and put it over here, and now I have 3 and 1/6. So that's the answer to my problem. That's how much flour I needed. Write down this in your spiral notebook. Pause the video now to do so. Okay, now Joe's cooking. Joe used 1 1/4 cups of sugar and 1 5/6 cups sugar in a recipe. How much sugar did he use in all? How would you add two fractions with unlike denominators, such as 1/4 and 5/6? Solve in any way you choose and show all work in your math spiral. Hint: find like denominators for the fractions. Find a least common denominator. Follow the example you just wrote on the last one. Then check your answer. Please don't forget to reduce if you need to. So pause the video to do your work. Okay, so I found multiples of 4 and 6. Then I found the common ones. Of course, the least common one is 12. I hope that's what you got. Then I take it, and I don't worry about my whole numbers just yet. I take my denominators just like I did with the fractions, and I have 1/4. 4 is across from 12, which is my least common denominator. 4 times what gives me 12? Well, that answers 3, so denominator and numerator, write it down. Then I have 5/6. I write the 6 across from the 12 because they're denominators. And 6 times what gives me 12? Well, the answer is 2, so I multiply my denominator and numerator by 2. Now, I end up with 3/12 and 10/12. I add them. Oh no, 13/12. It's improper again. So I've got to take my denominator and make it my divisor. Take my numerator, make it my dividend. 12 goes into 13 one whole time. That's why it's big. 1 times 12 is 12. I subtract, get 1 as my remainder. My remainder becomes my numerator, and my divisor becomes my denominator again. Okay, 1 and 1/12. Okay, now I come back and I put my 1/12 here, just like I did on the last problem. And I take 1 whole right there. So I have 3 and 1/12. That's how much sugar I have in all. Let's try a challenge. I know, you thought you already did. Nope. Here goes. Marty has 3 lengths of wood molding. They are 1 1/2 inches, 2 1/4 inches, and 1 3/8 inches long. What is the total length of all 3 pieces of molding? Solve in any way you choose and show all your work in your math spiral. Hint: find like denominators for the fractions. Find the least common denominator by listing out your multiples. Pause the video now and solve in your math journal. Okay, I can see I got carried away with the 2's because it was 8, so it wasn't very far up on any of them. So I hope that you found 8 is your least common denominator, and then in this case, least common multiple. Okay, as usual, I work with just the fractions 1/2, 1/4, and 3/8. I leave 3/8 the same because it already has the common denominator we're looking for. So 4, I put across from 8. What times 4 would give me 8? The answer is 2. So I multiply my denominator by 2 and my numerator by 2, therefore giving me 2/8. Then I say 2 goes, how does 2 times what gives me 8? And the answer is 4, so I multiply my denominator by 4 and my numerator by 4. So now I have 4/8, 2/8, 3/8. I leave my whole numbers alone, okay? 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 3, that's 9/8. Okay, here we go again. So I added, and I got 9/8. Well, you know what that means. You take your denominator, make it your divisor, take your numerator, make it your dividend. 8 goes into 9 one whole time. 1 times 8 is 8. 9 minus 8 is 1. This is now my numerator, my denominator, so I have 1 and 1/8 total length. Then I take it over here again, and I add that 1 here. Okay, and now this is 1/8. Okay, so 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3 plus 2. So now my answer is 5 and 9/8.